All right. Welcome back to A Journey to King's Cross, a Harry Potter book podcast. We also do movie watch-alongs as well because reasons. We are on Chapter 3, The Burrow, and we have some rather nice artwork, in my personal opinion, in this one. We get the Ford Anglia flying through the night sky, crossing in front of the actual moon, with, of course, the stowaway in the back seat. Sadly, no Hedwig in the actual image.
Kind of looks like a dragon.
Kind of, yeah.
It's got the blur thing going on.
But also kind of looks like Lightning McQueen.
Ka-chow.
It does! Because the way that their heads are in the car makes it look like the eyes.
Yeah.
It does not have the side mirrors on it either. So, yeah, to be honest, this could be a stock car for all we know. Either that or Arthur didn't put the freaking rear view mirrors back on after he was done tampering with the damn thing. But overall, the artwork is actually really nice and really beautiful in my personal opinion.
You get the feel of like a dark blue night sky.
Yeah.
Perfect night for some mischief. That's for dang sure. Anyway, basically, overall, this is really just sort of a catch-up chapter. We find out a lot about the Weasley family, home, work situation, and of course, while Molly made her original introduction in the previous book, we finally get to meet Mr. Arthur Weasley, the Chad himself.
At the end of the chapter.
Details. I can't wait for the next one where he finally decks Lucius Malfoy.
Spoilers.
That's always fun.
To
be perfectly honest, that's one of those things where, like, the book's a lot rawer than the movies because they just had to go glare off at each other, whereas in the book,
that's in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I realized, before we get too much in this chapter, I was realizing...
Keep going,
We never talked last week briefly about the phone call. Ron's phone call to Privet Drive.
Was it?
Or in the first chapter? In one of the other chapters. Just the fact that Ron tried to call...
I don't remember that.
And failed.
I could have
that was this book, wasn't it?
No, I think it's a later one.
I want to say that's 4.
Is it?
I think so.
I thought it was this one.
Because then they would have... I feel like they would have made a mention about it already.
Ah, crap.
Especially with Harry being like, well, I haven't gotten any letters.
Yeah, no communication.
I feel like...
And if he had gotten that call, he would have been able to at least tell him, why haven't you wrote to me?
Yeah, so I feel like actually at the end of this book, they're like, here's the phone number in case none of your letters get through again. I feel like this was the book where that set it up. I feel like it's in 3 or 4.
Wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, we get a little bit more action with the twins. I think they're like only vaguely mentioned much after their initial chapter introduction and stuff. So having them actually talking about all like the little things and stuff. The twins are surprisingly practical in retrospect.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, I don't even know how to pick locks. And yet
And they're using a bobby pin.
Yeah.
Like, that's notoriously difficult, I understand, to pick a lock with a bobby pin.
Well, I wouldn't know. You running in circles of people who do a lot of lock picking?
No, but I've seen some YouTube videos on, like, general lock picking, and I hear that bobby pins are pretty difficult because they're flimsy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Depends on how cheap the lock was.
Yeah, who knows? With Vernon, it could go either way. He could have gone super cheap or super expensive.
This chapter really sends home the fact that Vernon, I think, is just out to make Harry's life miserable.
Apparently it was the next book that it happens.
The phone call. Okay.
Yes. But anyway. So
Go for it.
I was thinking about something. So when they're breaking Harry out, and it specifically mentions, like, Vernon coughing, for some reason in my head I got this theory of, like, what if he knew? Like, he was awake and just kind of, like, trying to subtly hint or something, but then, like, once he forgot the owl, he was like, you messed up, you didn't take your owl, and he was totally okay with Harry just leaving and being gone forever.
You know, I wouldn't surprise me either, but...
He's got to keep up appearances.
Yeah.
Like, but also, like... Sorry, go ahead, Kimmy.
Oh, go ahead.
All right, and here I thought I was the one who was sick.
Also, if you've been locked up and you've been given a chance to escape, my first thought is pet. Get them first.
Yeah.
Anything else can be replaced, but get the pet. Get Hedwig in the car.
2 priorities right here, right now. Wand and Hedwig.
Everything else can be replaced.
Everything else can be replaced.
But also, to be fair, Harry might have a little touch of the ADHD, and if Hedwig was sleeping, his first thought was, escape. Escape.
Hedwig's a night. She's an owl. She's not sleeping.
If she was being quiet like she was supposed to.
She was until they accidentally forgot her ass.
Yeah. Look, man. I'm just saying, like... Also, you have to remember, Harry's malnourished at this point and wasn't sleeping very well.
Yeah.
So, like, his brain's a little addled.
Pregnancy brained up to 11 with this poor kid at this moment.
I had to think for a second. I'm like, what the hell? Okay.
I will forgive him for getting his owl.
How dare you forget the baby?
Fred and George both went to get the stuff from the downstairs closet, right?
Yes.
Was Ron doing anything?
Keeping the car afloat?
Like, I was gonna say, was the car just magically just staying there?
He has to keep it, from drifting off.
I have no idea how they would control that in terms of, like... I don't think they go into any... I don't think even in the later chapters where Ron and Harry are stealing the car, that it actually mention any of the serious details on how this damn thing operates.
So, there's another thing that I've always thought was weird, was how it's like, oh, you're not allowed to enchant Muggle objects. But, what defines a Muggle object?
Yeah.
Because, wizards use some of the same stuff that Muggles do.
So...
And we constantly see people enchanting stuff at Hogwarts and stuff. So, I had a theory about this based off another book series that I've read before. It's the Abhorsen series. My theory is that it's more of a problem in modern ages because of industrialism. When things are becoming more manufactured, that's where the issue is coming across. Whereas things that were more handmade or things that were originally made with magic and then enchanted can hold the spells better. But when you come into the more factory-made things, they don't hold spells as well. Or things that are more electronic don't hold spells as well. Or they get corrupted and become more sentient. In the book series that I read, it's kind of, there's 2 separate kingdoms, kind of. One is full of magic, and anything that is from, the more modern world that is made with, anything that's manufactured tends to disintegrate the farther deeper you get into the magical country. So I feel like maybe that's a good explanation for why some things are considered Muggle and some things are not.
I wonder if it's also, things intended for Muggle use, yeah, anyone can get a teapot, but, if you're specifically getting a teapot and then enchanting it to mess with the Muggles...
Oh, that's definitely that's illegal.
Yeah.
All I can think to myself is, why would you have an enchanted teapot that basically throws water at you? Or boiling water.
Or bites you.
Yeah, with the sugar tongs biting your fucking nose. I'm sure that'd be a great conversational starter.
It could be one of those things where it only works for the people who enchanted it. It works, kind of how Ron's chess pieces worked better for him and didn't want to work for Harry. One of the where they recognized who made them, and people who aren't supposed to be using them because they don't recognize the ownership, so they react poorly. Or if the spell is degraded because the witch died.
I love that. Yeah, I don't know.
I have no arguments for or against that statement. All I know is what they tell me in the universe and everything. And all I can think to myself is there's a lot of things that people have charmed that just cause problems in terms of the long term. I don't understand why some people magically charm shit, considering after a while it never ends up well. The Ford Anglia goes native, basically. I think there's all sorts of little things over the course of the series that just go bad or go wrong.
Yeah.
Which, realized, plot inconsistency. Later they specifically say that, charms die when the spellcaster died, because they talk about Lily's goldfish. He's like, I knew she was dead because the spell stopped working. That's the only time it ever happens, ever. Where they specifically, like, they mention that spells die when the spellcaster dies. But, like, we have so many enchanted objects that still are enchanted.
Yeah.
And some of those people are long dead. Hogwarts.
The Sorting Cap
The Sorting Hat.
was created by all 4 founders, so unless one of them is still alive running around somewhere...
Does being a ghost count?
None of the founders are ghosts as far as we know.
Yeah, the closest would be the Grey Lady.
But
Which is
she's
the
a daughter of the founder.
Yeah, that's true.
It wouldn't surprise me if, like, the spells and enchantments that are connected to living creatures. I'm guessing that's because it was specifically a fish that was given life. It was calling...
like tied to Lily's life force at that point.
Okay.
That
would make
sense.
more sense.
That's
the only explanation you can think of.
It's the only one.
That's fair.
Everything else makes a lot less sense, or else we'd have people, like, randomly falling out of the sky because their broom suddenly stopped with its charms because the person who made it passed away.
Like I said, plot inconsistency.
Yeah.
Not to mention, some of the brooms and stuff start getting bad after a while as well, and start going slower and everything in certain cases. And they don't indicate it has anything to do with the person who originally made it passing on.
That's fair. The other reason I also brought this up is because we know that Arthur has enchanted this car, right? But we know for a fact that later in the series, the Ministry has enchanted cars.
That raises so many freaking questions, especially considering how much shit they give Arthur about this.
Yeah.
He ends up having to pay a hefty fee because of this whole thing. And if it weren't for the fact that the car being stolen is legitimately what keeps Harry and Ron alive later on in the series.
Right.
It's a real dick fucking move on Harry's part.
Yeah.
Look, man,
we're just Ron's more, because Harry was just like, let's go wipe out the car.
Ron's like, let's drive the car.
Right. Also, man, Molly Weasley is the perfect example of being harsh on your children, but being kind to everybody else. Because she's yelling at her kids. Oh, hi, Harry. Yelling at her kids. Want some breakfast, Harry? Yelling at the kids. Harry, you go take a nap.
Muttering
we're gonna go back to bed. No, you're not. You're gonna go denum the garden. But Harry, you can go to bed, sweetheart. You didn't ask to be dragged across Surrey.
Well, he did.
Oh, if given the opportunity, he probably would have been coming.
He didn't ask. But he also didn't say no.
That's true.
This is one of those moments where I would love, like, a little bit inside of Molly's thought, like, mindset. Because considering all of the details we went through in the previous chapter of how long he'd been basically eating nothing but cold fucking soup for such an extended period of time, when he shows up at her doorstep and everything, he probably has to look malnourished as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Harry's not going to describe himself like that. Harry does not like the idea of being down on himself.
I mean,
but,
because he's a 12-year-old, he's growing. So imagine, like, all of his energy is going into a growth spurt, and he's just skinny. He's probably skeletal at this point.
Yeah. Like, we think Ron is long and lanky. I think he's probably worse. I'm trying to figure out...
She gave him, like, 3 eggs and 5 pieces of sausage, basically, to start with. She probably look at him and basically is like, you need to eat, son. And it's probably part of the reason she's not nearly as harsh on the kids as she normally would have been. Because I'm fairly confident, like, after she really got a good look at Harry and everything, she probably cooled off quite a bit.
No. 9 or 8. 8 or 9. Okay, she said, I don't blame you, dear, she assured Harry, tipping 8 or 9 sausages onto his plate. Now, as I was reading that, like, we're in America, we're used to these tiny little sausage links, right? But I'm pretty sure, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure...
Theirs are more like bratwurst size.
Theirs are more like bratwurst, so we're thinking like 8 or 9 like hot dogs on his plate.
Holy
plus
shit! I couldn't
3
eat that.
fried eggs.
I couldn't eat half of that.
And then she was cutting his bread and buttering it for him.
And I bet it had all the butter on it.
And you know that was homemade bread, and you can't cut that shit thin. That is a thick slice of bread. That boy ate like Michael Phelps.
and probably ate all of it with relish.
Probably.
Oh God, could you imagine the poor universe that Hedwig got unleashed in? That poor bird has been eating nothing but cold soup and has been cooped up. There is probably something that's a lot bigger than what an owl normally takes down, currently dead somewhere.
There is a significant dip in the mice population around the burrow, I bet.
Absolutely.
If she could eat a gnome, she'd probably eat a gnome too. Be like,
Probably.
She probably did eat a gnome or two.
Probably. Which, how big did they say the gnomes are?
Oh, right, because when they're flying through the air, George grabs like 5 or 6 of them. Granted, it might have been like, did it say 5 or 6 each hand, or
No.
in
Five
both hands?
It said, Ron straightened up. This is a gnome. It certainly looked nothing like Santa Claus. It was small and leathery looking with a large, knobby, bald head exactly like a potato.
So maybe there's...
It doesn't even say exactly how big. It just says it was small and leathery.
I'm going to imagine they're probably the size of an actual garden gnome that we entertain around the house.
I mean, maybe it's the size of a potato. Do you have a copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them?
No. Wait. No. So I
Damn.
thought we had one up in Luke's room, but I think he's got Tales of Beetle the Bird.
He does have tails of people. To burn.
Yeah, no, George seized 5 or 6 of them at once. But I want to know how he seized 5 or 6. Like, did he just grab a group hug of them? Did he grab 5 or 6 of them around the ankles?
The only thing I can think of is he's got them like somebody carrying a bunch of beers, basically. He's got all of their
between
their
his fingers?
legs between his fingers, basically, and he's got like 6 of them just dangling down there.
Reading this section of the book makes me nostalgic for... I think it was the PC game for Harry Potter and Chamber of Secrets, because you actually get to do the denoming.
Yes.
It was so much fun.
You get to do it in the Harry Potter Game Boy Color game as well.
Oh, yeah, I didn't play the Game Boy Color, but
I have it if you ever want to play
so
it.
much on this computer, and I loved the denoming part. That was my favorite part of the game.
So apparently they get up to a foot in height, but that's like the biggest they'll get. So it would be very easy to grab several of them.
Yeah, my newborn children were... So they're a potato. They're legitimately a potato. My
Potato with arms
newborn
and legs.
children were as long as 2 of those are tall.
That's so tiny.
What? You guys can keep going.
No, I was looking to see what you were up to.
I wanted to see if I could actually find the denoming thing from the Harry Potter PC. But yeah, the first 2 Harry Potter PC games were much more platformer and everything, and I think after a certain point they shifted genres before ending into basically what could be considered a third-person shooter for like the final ones.
Interesting.
I loved the original 2 games.
I don't think I ever got to play Sorcerer's Stone very much, but I remember playing...
I played it on Game
Chamber
Boy.
of Secrets, and I think we played... Was it Azkaban?
They were nice because they were more book-based than they were movie-based.
Yeah.
Because that was before the movies really took off and everything. I think after a certain point of the movies and stuff, they started taking on more and more of the appearance of the actual movies, since it was,
It's true, the games really did have, like, the book Harry, didn't it? It was like a light cross.
I can't believe they're charging people for... Yeah, I'm just going through, like, Steam and seeing what they have Harry Potter-wise. Interesting. Not really what I was thinking when I actually typed in Harry Potter, but it does look like they've got, like, the Harry Potter Quidditch Champions and the Harry Potter Lego.
Wand Out, a 3D magical gay novel. Okay, Steam.
Some of the weird stuff you can find on Steam.
We've got the Lego Harry Potter, the Harry Potter Quidditch, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is basically just... Probably, I put Harry Potter in the tag department just to see what I got.
Honestly, you're better off just finding an emulator online. Not that we support piracy.
If I don't own it, it's not stealing.
We don't support piracy. Wink,
I also
wink.
love doing this podcast in 2024 because we know so much more about mental health. And Arthur gets back from one of the raids, and it's like a bunch of shrinking dorkies. And, like, nowadays, we call that ADHD.
Right?
It was just in my hand.
I swear.
No, that's called ADHD now. What else?
Also, if you think about it, like, you wouldn't be able to admit that, really, if you... Because, you know, I don't know how other countries usually have their keys, but, I have my keys on a lanyard, on a key ring.
So I was thinking about that. Is it just
like,
a single key that shrinks off the lanyard?
Right,
Does
that's
the
other
whole thing shrink?
Right, because if it's just a single key shrinking on my lanyard, I'll be like, that's not right. After a certain point, I'll be like, what?
You're like, it was here. No one took it off.
I made a joke while we were listening through this and everything about the fact that they'd probably enchanted washing machines in order to eat one of your socks.
Dryers.
That too.
Every other sock.
Yep.
Because at first you made the joke about enchanting the socks so that one pair magically would get
And then
lost.
it's like, no, they would enchant the dryer. So the dryer would eat the sock. Yep.
To be fair though, dryers do actually literally eat socks.
Washing machines too.
Yeah, I've seen a couple videos of people taking them apart and be like, huh, that's a lot of socks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it checks out.
I had the thought. So, the thought I was thinking. Molly picks up the Gilderoy Lockhart book, which is our introduction to Gilderoy Lockhart.
The bum.
The bum. Now, if you want to talk about stealing. But she picked up the Gilderoy Lockhart book, and, like, she went to go, like, look through it and see what he's got to say on denoming, and she just, like, paused and sighed. And then I had the thought of, that's a magic picture. I'm pretty sure he can leave that and go visit his other magic portraits.
I'm not sure how the book covers work. We know for a fact that portraits are specifically designed in a specific way. So, because there was an image of, like, the moving photo and everything that Colin makes later on and everything, and there's really no indication that any of Lockhart's images about himself are moving from different things. So
Rob says that the Chocolate Frogs cards, they don't stay there all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Chocolate Frog cards and the portraits are the only things that's mentioned actually doing that.
That's true, but...
You're not wrong. That is the only thing specifically mentioned. I'm just thinking, if they act like the Chocolate Frog cards and the portraits, and you're just fangasming all like about this favorite celebrity, I don't know how I would feel about that in the wizarding world, unless they're much more comfortable with their emotions than we are.
There's a lot of things where it's like, the more you think about it, privacy in the magical world would be a pain to deal with.
Privacy? What's that?
My God, that makes it so easy for Lockhart to steal stories from other people.
Yeah.
Because if people who have his
There's
books,
no secret.
they'll report back to him when they find an interesting story.
Secret keepers! They're useless if you have a bunch of books and pictures in your house, and they all work on the same principle.
Maybe not all of them can talk.
I don't think there was any mention of any photographs that were taken actually having the ability to talk.
I feel like maybe that's the difference, is that the photographs aren't enchanted to talk.
The portraits are.
But
Probably because the portraits are painted.
To be perfectly honest, though, you're not the only people that have come through this thought process, though. One of the podcasts that I took inspiration from, for this podcast specifically, did mention the possibility that the reason that Dumbledore is so well informed is because all of his cards from the Chocolate Frogs are all connected.
He's got a spy network.
So he has a spy network. Every single picture and image of him basically is capable of coming back and communicating with him in some way, shape, or form.
It's true. Also, possibility, like going on the whole painted thing, is that it could be with an enchantment in the paints. Versus, I think it was mentioned because cameras were newer and more of a Muggle invention. It's I think it's mentioned later. We can come back to it if it is that they have to be developed a certain way.
Well, you also mentioned that...
To get them to move.
But you also mentioned that you were wondering if the enchantments worked better on things that were handcrafted. So a portrait being painted was handcrafted versus a picture is just kind of like a quick thing.
Right. It's a Muggle manufacturer.
Yeah.
And it can't be as enchanted as in-depthly. Because that would make the most sense, I think.
It's one of those things where it's like it's
Don't think
never
about it too hard?
it's never explicitly stated, and so theorizing can just go wherever you want in that department. You know, it's like
We also get our first look at Mundungus Fletcher.
uh,
Arthur Weasley mentions
yeah,
that
when
Mundungus kept trying to jinx him when his back was turned.
I could have sworn he
And-
got mentioned at the beginning of book 1, but
I don't. He
Was that
might
somebody
have,
else?
but like also they included him later on in the DA. Like he just tried to put a hex on Arthur in book 2. Why is he still part of the DA? Like the
Because he's not a bad guy. He
But that
just
doesn't
likes
mean
to...
he needs to be part. He just needs to
Who
go in
said-
the middle grade.
He's just trying to make a quick buck. And that's why he was trying to jinx... And Arthur was in the way of making a quick buck.
That's right. He's the little petty thief, isn't
Yes.
yeah, he's the guy who screws off and basically leaves Moody high and dry.
He stole the locket.
That too. We don't really like. He's one of those people where it's like you can trust him to be untrustworthy,
And yet they forget that.
they really do. I guess the thing is though, is because I think Dumbledore brings him in, people give him a lot more faith than they actually should, to be honest. Especially after Dumbledore's death.
When I really think it was more of a, if we don't take him, they will, and I'd rather have him on our side than on their side.
he? Better the enemy you know than the enemy you don't.
Yeah. Also, Arthur is so used to just so many kids being in his house that he didn't even notice Harry. At all. And I've seen a post about, like, imagine if Harry had red hair.
It just was.
Arthur
super
never
fast.
would have noticed him.
No.
No.
By the time he did, he could be like, wait, counting the children. Be like,
Well, there was a post that had from,
Wait,
from the movies
something-
where Arthur's eating and he's like looking and he's like 1, 2. Wait, stop! You don't have red hair. When did you get here?
I know the image you're talking about and everything. It's comedy freaking gold right there.
also,
I was waiting for because we're starting to talk about the Weasleys. I was waiting for the book to have Ginny's first line from the movie, which was, "Mom, have you seen my jumper?"
I was waiting
yes,
for that too.
It's on the cat, and not gonna lie to you. I was like, why? What the fuck is the jumper, and why is it on the cat?
It's a
I
sweater.
had-
It's
It's
a
a
Sweater
dress.
on the couch. No, it's a sweater on the couch.
Right, it's a sweater. Sorry, I keep forgetting that a jumper here would be a dress.
I didn't even know a jumper in America was a dress. I was like, what the hell is a jumper? And why is it on the cat? Not realizing that the cat was a couch. British slang.
Was it really? Because I thought there was actually, like, over on the mantle plate, like by the fire, there was a cat to hang, then there was a sweater hanging off of
I'm
it.
pretty sure she meant the couch.
Either way.
It honestly makes no freaking difference to me one way or the other. The whole situation is just kind of screwy.
Another thing about, so, obviously Molly knows that the kids are gone. Now, on one hand, you could be like, well, maybe she just goes in and checks on them at night and saw that they were missing. But the more likely scenario is either A, she didn't hear any noises out of Fred and George's room, but B, she has a clock that says where everybody's at.
Sadly, I don't know if it explicitly gives direct spot where it's like,
Not
yeah,
home.
somewhere over, like, London somewhere, yes. I have no freaking
But
idea.
it would have said traveling, and be like, that's weird, my kid should say home. Because, like, it's just like, she probably just went down to get a spot of tea or something, looked up at the mantelpiece, says she does, and then she's like, huh, that's not right. And that's how she knew they were gone.
Wouldn't surprise me if she double-checked one of the rooms or something. I remember playing the video game and everything, and I think they had they were on the lower floor when it came to their bedroom and everything. So she would have either had to go up and check the rooms individually, and then, or something along those lines.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, she would have had to, because Ron's room is at the very top of the house, and Fred and George's room isn't on the first floor in the book, so... What are we looking for?
I'm just
How many
dicking
flights
around.
of stairs did Ron have to go up? Was like 3 or 4 flights?
I think so.
Like, that's crazy.
You think about it in terms of like the imagery from the movies and stuff and some of the video games and everything.
Well, yeah,
it's
it
a
makes
very tall
It lines
house.
up with the movie and the video games and stuff, but just that's so many flights of stairs. No wonder these guys are built like freaking
Athletes?
football players and athletes, or that Ron is skinny and langly.
Well, and if they're constantly denoming gardens. I don't know if I was heard there.
They're also constantly doing yard work, like denoming, because Fred and George get into trouble. So yeah, that would also add into the
Physique.
the physique.
Good thing their mom's a good cook and can multiply all the food.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is that part of, I feel like a lot of the things that get the Weasley kids into trouble is because I feel like she raised them right. That's the wildest part about this whole thing is that a lot of the trouble that they get into is because not only are they thinking for themselves, they're also trying to do what's best for other people. If they did not give two shits about Harry, they would have been perfectly fine. They wouldn't have gotten any trouble or anything along those lines.
Listen,
But
she doesn't have a problem with what they did. It's how they went about it.
That's the... That is entirely fair. From one adult to another, I would 100% agree with you.
Didn't they mention
But
that...
if I tell my kid to stand up for themselves, and the next thing I hear is that my kid getting in trouble because they decked somebody for bullying them and everything, I really don't have anybody to blame but myself at that point.
I'm gonna look at my child and be like, "You're not wrong. However, that probably wasn't the smartest way to do that."
Look, my parents always said, don't start a fight, but definitely finish it.
Yeah, we raise our kids like Marie from Aristocats.
Yeah.
A lady should not start fights.
Ladies don't start fights, but
they can finish them.
Oh, for God's sake. Do we have to do a Disney podcast after we're done with Harry Potter?
No, but
Sounds fun.
I have the sudden urge to make a Marie cross-stitch with that line for my daughter now. Just for the heck of it.
Don't
You
you?
have too many cross stitches.
She beat me to it.
Enabler.
I know no such thing.
Enabler.
I'm not an enabler.
For anyone who doesn't keep up with my floss tube, I have like 200 plus cross-stitch patterns that are actually patterns. Plus, I don't even want to think about how many that I would like to make into patterns, and they are sending me more pictures that I would like to make into patterns.
I know nothing of what you're talking about.
They are enabling me.
No such thing.
They are not good friends. Don't get friends like these.
I'm not your friend, I'm your wife.
I love how my actual husband doesn't say a word.
I don't need to say anything. She knows damn well.
Look, man.
I was thinking about the fact that she...
I didn't say anything. You clearly didn't see the look I shot her, though.
I was referring to the fact that I said, don't get friends like these. She made the comment that she's not my friend, she's my wife. And
When
then
you should have said, I'm not your friend, I'm your husband.
You should have been like, yeah, something like that.
Mitch can't win today.
I never really can, to be perfectly honest.
He doesn't
You
have,
married Brandy.
He doesn't have the energy to fight back. We're all getting over some sort of cold. Yay,
I-
back to school season.
I had a long day. I had my regular job plus my janitorial job on top of that. And then I had to come home and keep an eye on the kids because my wife worked late.
I was
I've
helping
yet
animals,
to go to
sorry.
work.
My condolences.
It's okay. I got a raise.
Awesome.
Woo!
I'll be shocked if I ever see one at the place I'm currently at.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Super fucking jealous of my friends and relatives and family who seem to be able to quit jobs better than mine and find better ones without even really trying. And I'm like, you bastards. Anyway.
Harry Potter.
Ginny basically pops up for a hot second and everything, and I do like how everybody seems to be aware of the situation with Ginny. It's just sort of, I would not be too
Such
surprised.
a brother thing. It's kind of a difference. She never shuts up normally. It's such a brother thing to say.
Definitely.
You know, the funny thing is Ginny never struck me as a chatterbox throughout the course of the series.
No,
She
but
talks so much in the first book.
tell me why I have a sudden urge that Rose is going to grow up just like Ginny. Because our daughter right now is 7 and a chatterbox.
She talks so much.
And Ginny at 8, 9, no, 11, sorry. It's been a long day, I haven't done my math. At 11, apparently, is a huge chatterbox.
I mean, also, they're boys, so, their definition of a chatterbox is way different than what, a girl defines as a chatterbox.
That's fair.
To be perfectly honest, we have no idea how like wizarding families socialize or how much she gets to interact with the outside world or talk about anything. Could you imagine being a, wizard-born student and stuff along those lines, and just my dad works for the government. Oh, really? What department? Um, I can't really remember off the top of my head right now. To be perfectly like, it's one of those things where it's like we don't really hear about wizarding families like visiting each other or talking to each other in massive
Even though
communities.
technically they live pretty close to the Lovegoods. I wonder if
Yeah.
Ginny ever went and hung out with Luna.
It wouldn't surprise me in
Probably
the
after
slightest.
school started, I bet.
Definitely after school started, but like
Yeah.
before school. Like, where are these kids getting their socialization? Like, Harry was an only child. Where was he ever
But
going
he
to
went
get
to
other friends?
He went to public schools and got bullied.
Well, I
for
think
it,
she's
so.
saying,
Let me
like-
rephrase that. If Harry was raised by his parents,
Yeah.
he was an only child, were they going to ever have
Well-
play dates with others?
Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say they lived in a wizarding community, but they didn't.
No, they lived in Godric's Hollow.
Which was
Not-
mixed.
Yeah, it was mixed.
Yeah.
Which brings up so many questions of how in the world the wizarding world is capable of staying secret when there's apparently mixed communities. You'd think
Yeah.
if there's just a couple of wizards per city in maybe one or two every other town or something along those lines, it'd be super easy to keep their mouth shut on that. But having like 7 or 8 neighbors basically who are all talking to each other about the latest Quidditch game, and be like, what the fuck's Quidditch?
Yeah, I feel like communities would be a lot harder.
Oh,
Unless
man.
they had the spell like they had on Grimmauld Place on all of the,
Oh, boy.
Trying to keep the Wizarding World secret after the internet.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that'd be awful.
Impossible.
There's a lot. There's a. There.
Oh, until the government confirms the existence of wizards, and they're like, it's a hoax.
They're real. Nah.
I think somebody's messing with it. Though, to be perfectly honest, there's like a lot of like world building in this chapter that we basically completely skipped over. Like we've got the Lockhart books and everything. We've got the witching hour and everything, the music and like all of the house set up and everything, the clock. There's like so many like
Tiny
Little
details.
things.
like for and it's not boring. I always like I'm constantly like I've grown up in the modern age and everything, so I'm always like I need something like jingle the keys in front of me, you know. Whereas with this one, it's like I would love I like say what you want about Rowling and everything. She is capable of painting a day in the life of a magical world so effectively, and it's not even really boring or disinteresting to really just go through the details and stuff. It really does make me sad that we don't get too many opportunities to see other wizarding houses to really get a grasp of the differences and stuff. I don't think we go to another wizarding house until I want to say the last book, technically.
No. Technically Grimmauld Place in.
Yeah.
Oh
Book
yeah,
5.
yeah. I mean, okay, yeah, fair. We get. I always, that makes sense, but it's not really lived in until they show up there, and so they're doing a lot of upkeep and everything. So it's not like this is like. This wasn't like, Sirius Black lived here for like 13 years, basically.
Yeah.
This place has been abandoned.
I'm coming back to it.
This place has been abandoned for an extended period of time and everything, and we need to get everything back up and running, cleaned and fixed up and stuff. You know?
Yeah.
That was my overarching thought process, because I think we go to Luna's house briefly. We go to Tonks's parents' house.
Mhm.
Shell Cottage.
Shell Cottage.
And Malfoy Manor.
And, yeah, but that's
Manor.
all of that's all in the last book.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
We hang out. We have Privet Drive and everything, and we don't visit the Potter's house again until the final book as well.
Yeah.
even
But
though
that's,
that's
Again.
not really a house.
the corpse. It's one of those things where it's like there's so many like little details in that actual chapter and everything where it's just casually just mentioned and stuff. The garden gets a pretty decent description as well, with like the trees and stuff and weeds and everything, and I'm just sort of like, I have a hard enough time keeping up with 2 kids basically and a couple of pets. I couldn't imagine trying to keep a house together with 7 kids. Oh my god.
It'd be insane.
I would.
8 kids? Aren't there 7 boys and 1 girl?
There's a lot. There's too many to keep track of, okay?
But not all of
Oh,
them
no,
are living
I
in the
lied.
house.
No, you're right, 7.
No, but there would have been up until like 3 or 4 years ago, right? Because how old's Bill?
Couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I'm fairly confident Bill, when he was in his 7th year, Ginny was probably toddler to young child.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
So there was definitely all of them at one point in the same roof.
I think he was in school at least around the point in time Harry was born. And so that means that not even, like, yeah, the second half of his time at Hogwarts, Ginny would have been alive. So, yeah. I couldn't imagine having that many kids all in the same house. You know what? I could you imagine what that place would have looked like if Molly had a full-time job on top of it?
Oh, God.
Well, it says that
Oh, God.
Charlie was born in 72, and Ginny was born in 81.
Yeah, so he would have been, like, 3rd or 4th year when she was born?
Who? Charlie? Charlie would have been in his first year when she was born.
Something, yeah.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, they definitely had them all.
Imagine going to your first year at Hogwarts and there's a new baby.
Charlie's the oldest, or is Bill the oldest?
That would
Charlie's
be
the
that would be great. I would love to get out of the house, and that's the case.
Bill
Send me to private school if my parents are having a baby, because that's the last thing I want to be dealing with.
Yeah.
That might have been a blessing in disguise. There, I would have. Oh man, as a parent, I would have been looking forward to Hogwarts, back to school shopping for Hogwarts and everything. Thank God,
Right.
I've got 7 kids. I don't have to deal with them for 9 months.
Yeah.
Is Bill the oldest?
I thought Bill was the oldest.
I thought
Char-
Charlie was the oldest.
No, Charlie
Charlie's-
just graduated.
Charlie was the second oldest.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, he had just graduated. That's why they had an open spot in the Seeker for Harry last year.
Whether or not Charlie is
I don't
actually.
know. It was always implied. I felt like when I read it, it was always implied. I felt like that Charlie was the oldest. But maybe it's just
I
because they
think
always
Charlie-
said Charlie and then Bill.
I think Charlie looks older than Bill. But Bill, I think, is definitely the older one.
No. Fair enough. My bad.
That's.
So yeah, Bill would have been in his. It's okay. Then Bill was born in like 1970, probably.
So, a third
So-
year, roughly,
Yeah.
when Ginny was born.
To be fair, though, it wouldn't make that radical of a difference, since neither of them are super relevant characters over the course of the series. The twins do actively a lot more than they do.
Yeah. What was I going to say? We were listening through this and, like, kind of jumping back to the beginning of the chapter, I was kind of surprised when they were like, I don't know whether the Malfoys own a house elf or whatever, and then going on about house elves and what houses you would typically find them in. And I'm like, wait, wouldn't the Malfoys actually, or the Weasleys actually know a little bit more about the Malfoys? Like, they know they're a rich family, but, like, wouldn't they know that they live in, like, a manor house?
And the fact that he brings up Draco Malfoy and Fred or George, I don't remember at this point, was like, Lucius Malfoy's son?
Like,
what other Malfoy do you know? You went to school with him.
Clearly you know the dad.
It wouldn't surprise me, considering how much of a political opponent those two are, that their dad probably muttered about Lucius on a regular basis. And that might explain, like, oh, it's a Malfoy, obviously.
That's fair. Yeah, I didn't think about that. But then there's also, at the end of this book, we see Lucius Malfoy, strutting around school with Dobby following him.
What?
Like,
At the end of the book, yeah.
The very end of the book.
And that's only because he was in a hurry, and Dobby was still obeying the orders to shine the shoes.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the middle of something when he got dragged over to Hogwarts because Dumbledore was back at everything, and he was being a bitch
I
about
forgot
it.
about the fact that he was still obeying an order.
So when Dobby got very good at figuring out loopholes, which is why he was able to go to talk to Harry to begin with. So it wouldn't surprise me if he took full advantage of the fact that Malfoy gave him an order to do something, and so he continues to do it regardless of whether or not Malfoy's still in the manor.
Go get me snacks. Okay. Leaves the country.
It's a loophole.
Yeah. I thought Dobby had followed Lucius around randomly, and I was like, wouldn't you have seen him at the...
But it also does go to show that the classism of basically being like, why would we notice a house elf? Whatever.
But, and then we made a good point of, someone made a good point. Molly just, like, flicks her wand and the dishes start, and we're like, who needs a house elf?
Because people like Tonks exist.
But not only that, but then people like the Malfoys exist who like to have power.
Why be bothered doing something menial like housework? I'm too good for that.
Yeah, I know how to sew my own clothes. Why would I want to? I can just hire a tailor to do that. It's kind of their thought.
It's one of those things where it's like when you first start earning money, you have your money in your wallet. When you start having to pay a lot of bills, most of your money stays in the bank, and then when you're old enough to not have to deal with it, you put money back in your wallet again. It's how, like, it is similar to with wizarding. We as muggles are like, oh god, I would have any excuse in the book to use magic. Whereas,
cash?
The fucking, like, higher up wizards and stuff who've had magic their entire life be like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to do magic. I can magic something else use their magic.
The difference between being rich and poor. The poor, what's cash? The rich, what are bills?
Yeah.
But anyway...
we've run through everything more or less. I think the twins we didn't really touch on the twins and Ron and Harry discussing too much about the nature of the house elf and everything, but I mean, to be perfectly honest, they're pretty much spot on the money. It is in fact the Malfoys. Oh, yeah. And to go back around to your comments and everything, even if they did know a lot about the Malfoys and stuff, I seriously doubt Lucius Malfoy is showing up with his house elf to the Burrow. And I don't think Arthur's taking his kids to work too often. And we never really, like, it. The thing is, though, is that baffles me is that the house elves are tied to the family. What difference would the house make? Like, is there, like a threshold? Yeah. You need a certain type of magical house or something, or an old enough house or something in order for a house elf to be able to work for you? Because it strikes me as kind of odd.
It's weird that they say it comes with fancy mansions and stuff like that.
It sounds like it sounds like a house elf is more similar to a serf than a slave. Whereas the way
it could be that they just
kind of explained,
they just equate it to a big house. You'd have a house elf.
Because think about Grimmauld Place. That's not a castle or a manor, but the Black's Head creature.
Especially consider
Well, no, they explain it as a very, very big place, and in the movies and stuff, it's really massive.
But it's not a castle or a manor.
It's a manor.
It's a manor house, sort of, but it's also condensed along a bunch of Muggle stuff. They don't have their own land, but I think it's just a manor house that's been smushed amongst Muggle houses.
It's a McMansion.
Also, another thing is, like, it's another reason why, like, the Weasleys, probably one of the other Weasleys, an older Weasley, probably their aunt with the tiara, or great aunt, has a house elf, or possibly had one, because they are an older pureblood family.
But they like 100.
But they're disgraced.
Yeah, I looked, because that was my first thought of, but all the pureblood families are somehow related, but the Weasleys got disgraced out of the pureblood tapestry 100 years ago because
out of
the black.
They're still part of the of them
official registry of purebloods.
Because and Arthur actually gets to pass laws and is in charge of that sort of stuff.
Well,
so even if he's disgraced, he still has the authority that comes with being a pureblood.
Yeah, so it's possible that a different, richer relative who has not passed yet has a house elf. We don't ever find out about it.
Yeah. I have so many questions about how house elves work, though. It makes so little sense in the grand scheme of things.
But, like, also, it could just be the Weasley kids don't know how house elves work.
I also don't think the Weasleys do, because I was looking... The reason the Weasleys are blotted out of the Black's family tapestry, because I was trying to find a connection between the Weasleys and the Malfoys, which would have been the Black family tree. Mm-hmm. They got blotted out because they didn't want to be included in the top 28 or whatever of, like, the purebred families, like, basically the Malfoys, the Blacks.
I think you're confusing the Potters and the Weasleys. Because there's the Sacred 22 or something that the Weasleys are a part of.
Yeah, but I think the Potters
The Black family gets rid of anybody who is a blood traitor. Sirius is burned out, and I think Tonks's mom is also burned out of the actual family tapestry. It has nothing to do with politics or your actual standing in the public. Any type of tapestry with the black is specifically with how you are connected to the black family specifically. The Potter family, James has specifically said that he is in fact pure blood. But the Potters aren't part of that line because somebody had an issue with the Potters being pro-Muggle back in the day, and so they got taken out of the Sacred 22 or the Sacred 28 or whatever that number is.
This is some deep lore crap.
It is. It's all shit that's online and everything. That's basically just been shit that I've absorbed through osmosis. So I
Which
could
we
be
can look
wrong.
up and come back to you next week on, if we remember.
You know what, Kimmy? Since you decided to volunteer yourself for it, you knock yourself out.
Well, Brandy's already looking it up.
I am, because I'm trying to figure out where I had the information.
It wouldn't surprise me if something got mixed up or fumbled about, or like you read a
There's so much information, it's hard to remember what's real, what's not real, what's Pottermore, what's somebody made up, and what's from that headcanon or that fanfic that you read 13 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what I'm going off of. But it's getting kind of late. We've been going for almost about an hour and everything, so we're going to wrap things up here. Plug your stuff.
You go first.
Fine. Twitch, Cole Sanders, Coal Sanders. Currently working through Persona 4 Golden. It's a fun JRPG and everything. I love it to death. If you're up for teenagers solving murders and mysteries and stuff along those lines, it's going to be right up your alley.
You can find me on YouTube at Brandywine Stitches or on all the other socials under Hockeytown Candleco.
And you can find me on social media at Luna's Creation Corner. I've been doing a lot of crochet. Right now I'm currently market prepping, so I should be posting some spooky Halloween stuff soon. But
sounds like fun. Anyway, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us how bad we did, tell us how many mistakes we made. I don't really mind. Anything at this point would be great in terms of engagement. So anyway, keep your wands at the ready, and we will see you next time on A Journey to King's Cross, a Harry Potter book podcast.